Hey everybody, so it's time for NHL Games of the Week, where I look ahead at the upcoming week in the NHL and pick which games I think will be the best and most exciting to watch. Before we get into the video, I just quickly want to remind everyone to please like and subscribe if you haven't already. That really helps out the channel and is very, very much appreciated. So let's get right into it here, starting with today, January 12th. And today we've got a few good games, a lot of good games this week. Nashville versus Winnipeg play this afternoon. Obviously, that is a huge Central Division matchup. Nashville outside of the playoff picture right now, looking to fight their way back in. Winnipeg in the final wild card spot right now. So Winnipeg really needs points as well. So that should be a great game between two rival teams. Also tonight, we've got Toronto versus Florida. That is a huge matchup in the Atlantic Division. Toronto, third place right now. Florida, fourth place, but outside of a playoff spot because by a couple of points or 1 point, I believe. So obviously a massive, massive game there between the Maple Leafs and the Panthers. Moving on to tomorrow, the 13th, we've got a number of games as well. The New York Islanders versus the New York Rangers, the Battle of New York. The Rangers trying to stay somewhat in playoff contention. It's a very long shot for the postseason, I think, at this point. The Islanders, obviously one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. But still, rivalry game there, two teams that don't like each other. It's New York versus New York, so that should be a really, really fun, good game to watch. And they can play some exciting matchups against each other. Also tomorrow is Boston versus Philadelphia. Now, this certainly isn't the Broad Street Bullies versus the Big Bad Bruins or anything like that, but it's still a good matchup. Two good teams, Philadelphia trying to hang on in a wild card spot. Looks like they should be able to do that this season. Boston obviously leading the Atlantic Division right now. Two good teams that at times have had really heated matchups with each other. Not as much recently. I think this is a rivalry that's died down certainly over the last few years. There hasn't been a whole lot of action between the Flyers and Bruins, but that's something that could pick up at any time. It only takes one hit, one cheap shot, one mismatched fight, and next thing you know, it's right back to old-time Flyers and Bruins. So that should be a fun game and an interesting one to watch. Also tomorrow night, Carolina versus Washington. This is becoming one of my favorite matchups in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, they met in the playoffs last year. That really started to build that rivalry. It went 7 games. And now, anytime these two teams play, it's a hotly contested matchup. It's a really good game, and it should be a lot of fun to watch. Now, on Tuesday, the 14th, we have Vancouver versus Winnipeg. It is absolutely massive game between the Canucks and the Jets. Both teams right on the line of being in or out of the playoffs. Same number of points. So obviously a huge matchup there with a massive 2 points on the line. That the winner of that game will likely be in a playoff spot. The loser will likely be out. And Dallas versus Colorado. Obviously the second and third place teams in the Central Division. Potential playoff preview. That very, very easily could be the first round matchup for both of those teams in the Central Division is Dallas versus Colorado. And let me tell you, that will be one hell of a playoff series. Division rivals. I think that this is going to be one hell of a game. Should be a lot of fun, and I think that will be probably one of the better games this week. The 15th, Wednesday, there's only a couple games that night, and nothing really stands out to me. So the 16th, Thursday, we've got Pittsburgh versus Boston. Obviously, that's always a good matchup, always a fun game. Two very, very good teams this year with the Penguins and Bruins. They're both playing really, really good hockey. So really can't wait for that one. That one's going to be, I think, one of the best games this week as well. New York Rangers versus New York Islanders. They play again. Everything I said about the first time, they play twice this week. So that should be a lot of fun. New York versus New York for a second time. Obviously, they're rivals, and that can be a really exciting game to watch. And Arizona versus Vancouver, big-time Pacific Division matchup there. Teams fighting for playoff position. Arizona's, not playing the best right now. They really need to get some more wins in the win column. They got to start turning things around here. Vancouver trying to climb the standings, trying to climb into a divisional playoff spot. So that's a huge game with the big 2 points on the line for both of those teams. 17th, we've got nothing on Friday, only a few games that night, and then Saturday the 18th, Washington versus the New York Islanders. Massive matchup there. Two of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Should be a whole lot of fun. I can't wait to see those two teams play each other. That has 1-goal game written all over it, and will probably be a very, very exciting game to watch. St. Louis versus Colorado, obviously a massive, massive game in the Central Division. St. Louis leading the Central Division, Colorado trying to catch them. Two very, very good teams, to say the least. St. Louis is one of the best teams in the league. Colorado having some consistency issues, but obviously when they're on, can be one of the top teams in the league. When they're off, they kind of go through rough stretches. But divisional matchup, division rivalry should be an outstanding game. Arizona versus Edmonton, another massive Pacific Division matchup. Obviously, if you look at the Pacific Division standings, every game between any of those top 5 teams is really, really important because how close and tight that division is. You can go from out of the playoffs to first place in like 3 games. You can go from first place to out of the playoffs in 3 games. So it's absolutely nuts how tight that division is, and this is another massive divisional matchup there. And then finally, Dallas versus Minnesota, Central Division matchup. Minnesota trying to hang around in playoff contention. They're not in a playoff spot, but they're trying to stay at least within striking distance. Dallas, obviously, in a playoff spot, looking to just pick up wins against lesser opponents and keep the points rolling. So that should be an interesting divisional matchup there. So those are my games of the week for this week. Hopefully you guys get the chance to watch some of those. I know I will be watching as many of them as I can. And with that, like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.